And here we are, the third and final part of my comic book predictions video, 20 things I guarantee will happen between now and San Diego Comic-Con 2021. If you did not catch parts 1 and 2, those are linked in the description below. This video picks up at prediction 14 and includes my premonition on the fate of Image Comics, which is currently the third largest publisher of American comic books. And I hear you thinking, what does he mean, currently? What could that portend? Well, stick around and find out. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghala. My name is Duke, and let's not waste any time. Let's get right to the predictions, pausing only a few seconds, just long enough for me to give the pitch. Please like, share, subscribe. Because while this channel is new to YouTube, I'm sure you are not. This is not the first video you've watched, so you know the deal. That little thumbs up from you can really help this channel grow. And whether you like this video or not, please do leave a comment. Let me know what clicked for you and what didn't. And that can help me grow personally as a YouTuber. Okay, that's it. That's the sell. Let us now yoicks and away with
number 14.
In the age of COVID, more and more families are turning to homeschooling. And not just the anti-status, but regular run-of-the-mill folk. And these folk could maybe use a little help with a lesson plan. So I predict exponential growth over the next year in educational comics. And comics have always had that potential. Between inventing most of the tricks in the comic book artist toolkit and inventing the graphic novel, Will Eisner also pioneered and promoted the potential of comics in education. His Preventative Maintenance Monthly magazine was in production for the U.S. military for many, many years. So I can see Marvel, DC, and others moving in that direction, either in partnership with Scholastic or on their own, maybe fully endorsed by various state departments of education, or just circulated as a supplement to help parents goad their kids along. And if you think about it, a lot of comic book characters are perfectly poised for this purpose. The Metalmen and Metamorpho can be used to teach chemistry. Tomahawk can teach American history. So can Sergeant Rock. Superman, as a reporter, Clark Kent, can teach English composition. Batman, as billionaire Bruce Wayne, could teach economics. Wonder Woman teaches social studies. And any number of comic book brainiacs, in addition to the actual brainiac, can teach math and engineering. And that's just the DC stable. So look for that to be a thing, more educational comics. But no longer a thing will be
number 50.
Say your goodbyes, fanboys. It is exit stage left, Jim Lee. In the recent staff cuts at DC, the infamous quote-unquote bloodbath, Lee was effectively failed upwards. So look for him to be more or less a non-entity in his new role, whatever his title is. He's now pretty much an executive producer, right? People will go to him for his opinion now and then, purely as a courtesy, a show of respect, but without ever actually needing or heeding what he has to say. And hey, Jim Lee seems to me an altogether thoroughly nice and decent guy, but as a corporate shark, in Star Trek terms, Jim Lee is not a Kirk or a Picard. He's more of a Sulu or a LaForge. And again, I don't say any of this to disparage him, but by this time next year, look for Lee to announce he's decided to step away in order to, in the words of political pariahs everywhere, spend more time with his family. But, as one Jim exits, another one enters, and that's
number 60.
Jim Shooter, that Silver Age Wonderkind and Bronze Age Poobah, will be in the news, hired by one of the big three. And by that I mean Marvel, DC, or the new company on the block I've predicted, Universal Comics. Now, Shooter has said in interviews that at his age, he's not really interested in running a comic book company again, or even in working full-time as an editor-in-chief. But with comics in need of reestablishing contact with the casual readers, I can see Shooter taking a consulting job of some kind. because there are very few people in the comic book industry today who know how to actually write a comic book, and even fewer who know how to edit them. Modern writers all think they're crafting movie scripts, and latter-day editors are little more than glorified production managers. So look for Shooter, who once gained fame for making the Marvel trains run on time, to repeat that feat while also teaching a few conductors, novice or otherwise, what a train is and how to actually drive the damn thing. A lot of people aren't going to like it, but I think Jim Shooter will be back in some capacity, limited or otherwise. But hey, let's see if that comes to pass. In the meantime, we'll move on to
Number 17.
I call this prediction diversify or die. And I'm not talking creator or character diversity. I'm talking about the diversity of product lines in your typical comic book store. Put simply, the era of the 900 square foot comic book store is dead, especially the kind of store that deals almost exclusively in new issues. That's dead and buried. Over the last couple of decades, the comic book market, which was actually built on used comics before deciding it could also sell new books, and then did that with abandon, happily abdicating back issue sales to the internet, it has rediscovered both back issues and the internet. A lot of stores are getting back into back issues. A lot of stores are finally, at long last, making use of the internet as something other than a static, website. So look for vintage comics to become an even more predominant sales category for comic book stores, with most of the shops that survive over the next year getting savvy about maintaining their online presence. But also, the collapse of Toys R Us has left a void that really has yet to be filled. So look for many shops to branch out into new and vintage toys and video games. You'll see as many board games as role-playing games that you normally find at a comic book store, and you'll have more action figures than the kind of collectible statues that you have now. Also, look for shops that have or else can expand into the appropriately sized space to also embrace a social aspect, one people are bound to be hungry for once we finally come out of COVID. Stores will put out tables not just for gaming, but also for eating, offering food and drink. Hey, you just bought a Spider-Man comic, why not sit down and have a hero sandwich while you read it? And some stores may go more adult. They might actually add a bar. Some will add an arcade. Some will do both and call it a barcade. Whatever form it takes, comic book stores will increasingly become what I'm calling kind of pop culture hangouts. It's a place where people want to be, not just buy. All right, we are getting near the end. Let's press on. A few more quick ones.
Number 18.
Image Comics will see explosive growth over the next year, as well as an equally explosive decompression. These days, Image is pretty much a pay-to-play publisher. What does that mean? Well, they don't pay page rates. They are, and I think I've seen Eric Larson say this explicitly. He said that Image Comics is curated self-publishing. So what you have is that they do all of that kind of behind-the-scenes stuff, but they get paid for that. Whatever comes back as the price earned from the distributor, they take out their fee, they take out the printing cost, and then, the creators get whatever's left over. And that can be, I've heard some people say, what's left over can be as little as, $40 a page. But, a lot of people do that because, hey, they don't want to deal with a printer. They don't want to deal with a distributor. They don't want to deal with the marketing. A lot of people figure, hey, it's got the Image Comics logo on it. That pretty much is my marketing. Well, I predicted over the next year, if everything else I predicted so far comes true, what's going to happen is that a lot of people are not going to want to work for these big corporate companies, especially if they move more towards the normie, the traditional, the iconic, start demanding that a comic book has to be a certain thing. There are a lot of creators, maybe even most current creators, who don't want to work on characters they don't own, don't want to work for the corporations. Okay, well, that's fine. But there are also some who just won't have the discipline to tell a story in one or two issues. And if they're being told, okay, well, you have to tell a traditional Batman story, if they can't remake Batman into whatever, fan fiction they've been carrying around in their head for 30 years, they're not going to want to do it. And they will scream, creator rights and march over to Image. Image will take them on because, hey, you pay to play. If they think they can make enough money to make their fee and the printing cost off a book, Image doesn't really care how much is left over. So again, I think that as the corporations kind of move more towards the center, it's going to annoy and chase off a lot of the creators who are going to go over to Image. They're going to submit projects there. Those projects are going to get accepted. There will be an explosive growth over the next year. And then what's going to happen is that, frankly, a lot of these books aren't going to be that good. A lot of them are going to be just kind of a steaming pile of poo because, again, Image doesn't really edit the books either. And so that's going to alienate the customer. They're going to be a little afraid of what the Image logo means, what they'll be getting from that. I think the Image logo will get kind of diluted in the market space. People will wonder, well, what does it actually mean to be an Image comic book? And so I think, when that happens, there will be a big contraction because, one, again, a lot of creators are just not going to make any money on these books, and they're going to have to do other things. They're going to have to give up that dream. And then, a lot of people will start to pull back from Image, and it won't sell well just because it's an Image book, because people will have been burned one too many times. So again, my prediction, over the next year, you will see explosive growth in Image to maybe 2 or 3 times the number of titles that it offers on a monthly basis right now, and then a severe contraction to the point where it may even be offering on a monthly basis fewer comic books than it is right now. So that's kind of the quantitative measure to go into the qualitative prediction that I have made. We'll see what happens. But for now, let's move on to
number 19.
Okay, so I mentioned Croft, Sid and Marty Croft Publications being sold, being acquired by some comic book publisher over the next year. I think also right for sale is Archie. Now, Archie has proven that its characters are viable in other media, in movies and television, and it also has that stable of kind of moribund superheroes. The Fly and the Comet and the Shield and all of that. They get revived every few years, but I think somebody will see that as something that maybe it can take advantage of. So I think Archie is going to be sold within the next year. Who will buy it? If the Universal Comics group that I am predicting comes about, it would probably be the most likely buyer because, again, it may be looking for something to fill that tween niche in between the kids and the older fanboys properties that it currently has in its stable. But at any rate, I think we are going to see headlines of Archie comics being sold over the next year. And that brings us to, at long last,
number 20.
So, at the beginning of these predictions, in the last video actually, I talked a lot about, Diamond and Diamond going under and how there would be a rise of other forms of distribution. Well, I think that's going to leave stranded a lot of small companies, these 1 or 2 title publishers. I'm thinking of, Eric Powell's Albatross Funny Books, of Terry Moore's Abstract Studios. They may not have the wherewithal, the ability, or the interest to, line up with some new distributor, rather it's Lunar or something else. And they may not have the time, interest, or money, frankly, to delve into self-distribution. So they're going to need somebody to sort of work as an umbrella distributor for them. And I think that might be Alterna Comics. Alterna, and again, I've mentioned them already. Great company, really like their books, really like, the publisher, Peter Simeti. I like his philosophy. And he's already started doing this, kind of taking, these small books under his wing, under his umbrella, and distributing them through his channels that he set up for self-distributing the Alterna books. So, these aren't actually Alterna books, but they are distributed by him. Now, currently, he's not putting out any kind of a catalog, but I think, if he takes on enough of these other companies and some of the larger, profile people like Eric Powell or Terry Moore, I think he may start putting out at least a digital catalog of some kind. But I think what's going to happen as things kind of blow up and then shake out over the next year, all of these different small publishers are not going to be able to deal individually with all 2,000 some odd comic book stores. And all 2,000 comic book stores don't want to deal with, 20 or 30 different small publishers, especially some of them are already pitching a fit because they have to go with dealing with just Diamond to dealing with Diamond and Lunar or UCS. So they're certainly not going to want to deal with, as many as 20, 30, 40 different self-distributors. So there's going to need to be some kind of umbrella organization to sort of gather together all of these small publishers, all of these people who either cannot be or maybe by point of personal philosophy don't want to be at a larger publisher, who want to kind of do their own thing. They're going to need some way to get their book to the market, even if they also crowdfund. Something's going to rise up. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I think the most likely thing is going to be for it to be Alterna. They're kind of the ones who are best poised to sort of spearhead that effort. And so there you go. That's it. Those are my 20 amazing comic book predictions. What do you think? Did I get close on any of them? Can you foresee any of this happening? Or am I just cuckoo nuts? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Reach out on social media. More videos are coming. This is a brand new YouTube channel, so please do like, share, subscribe. I appreciate your time in watching this video. And so until next time, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.